After we've had a disruption or we've done a test, it is important to do a lessons learned. And I've told you this before, and I probably will tell you again, lessons learned is very important to do, because if we don't learn from our mistakes, we will repeat them. And while the next disaster may not be exactly the same, there are still key elements that we can use to either make the next disaster not happen at all or make it less impactful. And we often skip this phase because we just don't have enough time, or, well, we fixed all the problems that caused this disaster. And while both of those might be true, doing this can help us prevent future disasters. And we use this just like we use the exercises and drills. We use it to improve our performance next time. What worked well, what did not work well, and where can we improve? And we still don't place blame. The whole idea behind this is what can we do better. And we then use the lessons learned to make our BCP, DRP, and all the other plans better for next time. And constantly updating our BCP and our DRP can seem cumbersome and a waste of time and money. And that's exactly the reason why many companies don't. But we need to keep in mind that the BCP and the DRP is only something we use when all the other countermeasures we have in place in our layered defense have failed. We now have an actual disaster. If we don't know how to respond to this, we might end up in that group of close to 70% of businesses that might never open again, or at least close within 2 years of the major data breach. And here are some of the common mistakes and errors we do that cause our BCP and DRP to be ineffectual and not really matter much. We may not have the support of senior leadership. As with any other IT security endeavor, it is critical that we have senior management's buy-in, and they are at least part of the initiation and then the final approval of the plan. It can also come from lack of involvement from the business units. We're IT. We know how to fix the IT side of it, but we really need that involvement from the rest of the organization to ensure that all the countermeasures and the mitigations and the actual DR plan works when we put it in place. If they don't care, if they don't participate, it's not going to be very effective. The lack of critical staff's prioritization often lays with the managers. We might want the senior network engineers to be part of the DRP process because they have valuable input, but their manager might not want them to use the time on it. And he or she has 10 other things they need to focus on right now. And this one somewhat leads back to the first one. We need the buy-in from senior leadership. If we have that, then we're much more likely to get the critical staff we need to be part of the DRP and the BCP. We can also often have too narrow a scope, meaning we only focus on one part of the organization or only the things that we think are critical. If we do not cover all the things that are critical, we might not be able to continue to function as a business. If we're a hospital and we choose that patient records are critical, they need to be accessible at all times. Makes sense, right? But what if they can't access the pharmacy, or the imaging, or whatever else they need to do their job? So having a too narrow scope can often cause us to fail in an actual disaster scenario. Which is why bullet point number 2 is so important. We need the business units involved. As an IT security manager, I may not know all the interactions that their programs have and all the things they need to do their job effectively. We've talked about this one as well before. Inadequate telecommunications and supply chain management. We are only as strong as our weakest link. If we're a production company and our major supply chain provider goes out of business, if we don't have another supplier lined up, if we don't have contingencies, we could be very severely impacted. Same thing with our internet connection. All our internal infrastructure might be perfectly fine. If we do not have a connection to the outside world, that may not matter much. Our organization might just have decided not to test very much. We've done the plan already. Why waste more time on it? But in pretty much anywhere I've worked, when we went through the testing of the plan, we found a ton of things missing. And then we need to make sure that the staff that have critical parts in the DR and BCP plans have had the proper training and we have raised their awareness. This is something we're responsible for. We will also be liable. So when the horrible catastrophe happens and no one knows what to do and it's our job to have trained them in that and raised their awareness, it's probably a good time to find another job. The last one I think makes sense, just like the rest of them do. If we do not update our BCP or our DRP, once something happens, they're not going to be very effective. Because the plan is 10 years old. We do not have any of the systems we had 10 years ago. We might just use the wrong versioning. If we changed IPs for the entire enterprise 6 months ago and updated our plans to version 10, when Bob is logging in from home trying to fix stuff with the plans from version 9, he has all the wrong IP addresses. Either what he does is not going to do anything, or it's going to break even more things. Versioning is critical. This is also why, once we update the plan, we retrieve all the old plans and we only make the new ones accessible. People bring in their old ones, they get a new one. When a disaster is happening, people don't always think clearly. They tend just to react. Oh, quick, I need to do something. Let's go in and do whatever it says in the plan. And they just rush in and start doing things. And if they grab the wrong version, bad things happen. And luckily for us, when we start building our BCPs and DRPs, there are a lot of guidelines and plans and frameworks out there that we can use to make it easier. And this is just like all the other standards we might need to adhere to or we choose, we can tailor and tweak them to fit what we need in our organization. I'm not going to go terribly much in depth with these, but I would suggest you go look at the links section at the end of this domain, follow the links, and read up on what they do. Since the system exam is a management level exam, I don't think you're going to get any questions on these in depth, but I would know what they are on the surface. And since they're in this section, you obviously know they're part of BCP or one of the subplans, for instance DRP. NIST 800-34 can help our contingency planning for our IS systems. It outlines some of the interim measures we can use for IT systems after a disruption. ISO 22303 and 27031 both focuses on BCP management systems, where 22301 is more high level, 27031 is more the guidance and the pragmatic advice. And finally, I want to mention the BCI as well, Business Continuity Institute. It has a pretty simple 6-step process for business continuity. And as mentioned, all these will have links in the link section.